This year for English, one of our assignments was to create a persuasive essay, and my head immediately went to why Michael Jackson was killed by Sony in AEG Live. I worked on my essay, and I'm actually really proud of how it turned out because I think it tells the facts pretty well and it's compelling because it's persuasive. I just had the idea to turn my essay into a video essay because I feel like people would rather watch a video so that I could show them the facts and show them the pictures and the videos that I reference in the essay, so that it makes it easier to understand and follow. I feel that this is a subject that people need to know about, and I think it's really important and it's interesting, and you can go so deep into it. There's so much. This essay is only touching the tip of the iceberg, but hopefully this will compel you to go deeper into the conspiracy. And I shouldn't even call it a conspiracy really, because it's undeniable. Please forgive me if this is terrible, but I'm trying my best. Okay, I hope you like it. Michael Jackson was murdered by his record label, Sony, on June 25th, 2009. This was assisted by Michael's concert promoters AEG Live and a doctor by the name of Conrad Murray. Despite the public knowledge of his passing being a drug overdose, there was a lot of moving parts behind the scenes that had a factor in killing the biggest star on the planet. At the age of 50, Michael was tricked into performing 50 live shows at the O2 Arena in London, when he originally agreed to doing 10. This took a huge toll on his body, and he had to start taking anesthetic in order to get sleep. This would soon be a weak point where the doctor could take his life with no intention of saving him. This is what truly happened to our beloved Michael. In October of 2001, Michael's last studio album, Invincible, was released. At this point in Michael's life, he is $400 million in debt and owns 50% of Sony's catalog. The catalog included music of the Beatles, Elvis Presley, and Bruce Springsteen, along with many others.
This is a 22-page document of all the acts he owned in alphabetical order. And what did the headline say? Michael owned 50% of Sony. Huh? That old Beatles stuff, that's chump change. What's that headline say?
List of Sony/ATV music publishing artists.
Michael owns 50% of all country western music. He owns 63% of Dolly Parton. Huh? He owns 50% of Charlie Pride. He owns 50% of Bob Dylan.
Beyonce knows.
M&M's. Huh? And it goes on and on and on. You see them others there you recognize?
Boyz II Men, Bon Jovi, Brenda Lee, Brian Harvey, Brian West, Rick and Lace, Bright Eyes, Brooks and Dunn.
And it goes on and on and on. That's just the bees. And if all this was sold today, the estate would probably get between $40 and $50 billion.
Sony sabotaged this album release by leaking it to a Russian fan site months before the intended release. They also did very poor promotion and paid people to leave bad reviews on the songs. Furthermore, Sony didn't restock the album in stores when it was released and only let Michael have one single off the album, hurting the public knowledge of it even more. Since it was leaked, the songs were downloaded all over the world, thus taking a huge percentage of what would have been first week sales. The album release was sabotaged because Sony needed Michael to be so penniless that he needed to sell back the 50% share of their company. If the album did amazing, which it would have given the chance, Michael would be in a perfect financial place, therefore able to keep his Sony share.
Sony Records deliberately sabotaged Michael Jackson's last album, Invincible, to guarantee that he would be into debt to the corporation, so he would have to pay them back by giving up the catalog. Okay? And ultimately, that's why he was murdered. He should have never came back to the Staples Centers to prepare for those concerts that he had lined up. Those concerts would have gave him the liquid cash to pay off his debt to Sony and keep his catalog. So in order to make sure you get the catalog back, you got to make sure that Michael never goes on tour to get the liquid cash. Michael wasn't broke. He just didn't have the liquid cash. He had the assets. He didn't have the liquid money.
Well, Michael Jackson, I guess at the time, he was having some financial issues, but once he died and the state came in and cleaned up his finances, he became one of the richest dead celebrities on the planet.
Oh yeah. Well, he's the highest selling recording artist of all time. He sold more than 1 billion albums. No one else has ever done that. You know, but the music industry functions like any other white racist society. It's get down to lay down. So Michael was murdered. He was murdered.
After the Invincible album release, Michael started publicly bashing his label and telling the world what they had been doing to him and the motive behind it. Shortly after the album was sabotaged, Michael spoke at an event in London, saying the following.
Sony being the artist that I am at Sony, I've generated several $1 billion for Sony, several billion, and they really thought that my mind is always on music and dancing and it usually is, but they never thought that this performer myself would outthink them.
Yeah!
We can't let them get away with what they're trying to do, because now I'm a free agent. Yeah. I just owe Sony one more album. It's just a box set, really. It's with 2 new songs, which I've written ages ago. Because every album that I record, I write, like, literally, I'm telling you the truth, I write at least 120 songs every album I do. So I can do the box set and just give them any 2 songs. I own half of Sony's publishing, and I'm leaving them, and they're very angry at me because of it, but I just did good business, you know. It's the way they get revenge is to try and destroy my album. And Tommy Mottola is a devil.
Respect!
And he is a horrible human being, and we have to continue our drive until he's terminated.
There you go!
Michael Jackson told many people of his worries about these people being after him. His own daughter, Paris Jackson, said in a 2017 Rolling Stone interview that she is also convinced that her dad was murdered. She went on to say, and I quote, "Absolutely, it's obvious. All arrows point to that. It sounds like a total conspiracy theory, but all real fans and everybody in the family knows it. It was a setup. It was bullshit." Michael's oldest son, Prince, also testified in his father's wrongful death trial. Prince Jackson said during testifying that Michael told him many times, "They are gonna kill me." In addition, Prince recalled a time when he witnessed a tense exchange between Randy Phillips, CEO of AEG Live, and Conrad Murray, the night before Jackson's death. Prince testified that Phillips visited Jackson's home and aggressively spoke to Conrad Murray. "He was grabbing his elbow. It looked aggressive to me." Michael's older sister, LaToya, had publicly said multiple times that Michael's passing didn't make sense and that there was a bigger picture behind the scenes that everybody knew.
How do you think he died? You've been quoted as saying you believe it may have been murder. Do you still think that?
Absolutely.
Why?
Absolutely.
Why are you so sure?
I would never, ever think differently. Because first of all, Michael told me that they were going to murder him. He was afraid. He was afraid
who
for
was
his
going
life.
to murder him?
The people that were involved in his life, the people that were controlling him, kept saying it over and over and over again. Yes, Dr. Murray was the fall guy, but it's more to it than just that. He named names. He told me people. He told me to be careful of this one and that one.
In LaToya's book, Starting Over, published in 2012, she shared a time when Michael plainly said, "LaToya, they want my catalog. They want my publishing. They'll do whatever it takes to get it. They're going to kill me." At approximately 10:40 in the morning of June 25th, 2009, Michael had received his last dose of propofol. Mary then left the room and proceeded to make 3 different phone calls, adding up to 47 minutes. During that time, Michael went into cardiac arrest, and Murray was not available to assist. By the time Conrad Murray came back into the room, he noticed Michael was not breathing and attempted to perform CPR on a bed, which, if you know anything about CPR, it is that it needs to be performed on a hard surface or else it will not work. Murray also sends a security guard to go collect the many bottles of various drugs that were given to Jackson. These bottles are put into a bag, and Murray relocates them to one of his offices. These bottles become an important slice of the evidence during the trial. Only then does Murray call an ambulance. When the paramedics arrive, the doctor does not mention the fact that he left Michael unattended. And later on in the hospital, he manages to sneak out to tie up some more loose ends to do with the crime scene. Conrad Murray was convicted of involuntary manslaughter in 2011. He was sentenced to 4 years in prison, yet only serving 2. His doctoral license was revoked, and he continues to see patients for checkups without prescribing any medications. He defends this by saying he is not breaking any law. LaToya dedicated the second half of her book in telling her research into her brother's death. The line, "He was worth more dead than alive. In the first year after his death, he made over $500 million," sticks out because on paper it is true. Realistically, taking a father away from 3 children under the age of 11 will never be justifiable, no matter how much money could be involved. But this is a company whose sole purpose is to make as much money as possible. Ever since Michael was 5 years old, he was the biggest star on the planet. Michael gave everything to his craft and trusted a lot of the wrong people who would eventually take advantage of him and screw him over in the name of money. Hence the child molestation allegations. In the first year after his death, Michael's name produced $275 million. This was more than Beyonce, Jay-Z, Lady Gaga, and Madonna had made in that year combined. The famous This Is It concert movie of Michael rehearsing for the London tour went on to earn over $261 million internationally. Not to mention his share of Sony was projected to bring in around $100 million a year. The amount of money being brought into Michael Jackson's estate yearly is unprecedented. Michael Jackson's death was without a doubt a conspiracy. Anybody close to him knew it, and people who are curious enough to investigate will be welcomed with many court testimonies and undeniable evidence, along with clear motive and messy execution. It is very easy to believe Michael did not suffer cardiac arrest because he was a drug addict, but because he was given a cocktail of heavy anesthetics, purposely left unsupervised, with nobody around with the intent to save his life. Michael will be remembered for his contributions to the music industry, his fiery talent, and his precise perfectionism. His humanitarian efforts will never be forgotten, and his legacy is continued by the people who truly care for him. I will spread his truth until the day I die because he is no longer here to speak for himself.